Jack Mercer stepped into the stormlit bar, his 10-year-old daughter clutching a sketchbook behind him. When the Lady Biker Billionaire tore his shirt, the Marine Corps tattoo froze every voice. What secret did it reveal about the man he'd tried to forget? Pride, danger, and a spark neither expected ignite. Will his ruthless queen and a single-dad veteran choose redemption or lose each other before dawn? Rain needled the windows, and the neon hummed like a throat clearing to speak. Smoke drifted near the ceiling in a slow gray tide. He sat with his back to the wall, broad-shouldered, a little stooped, hair damp at the collar, a pale scar nicking his brow. His soda sweated on the table. He didn't drink anymore. He liked knowing where his edges were. In the far corner, his daughter perched on a stool, sketchbook braced against her knees. She watched him without staring, the way a child learns to read weather. Each time his gaze found hers, she offered a small nod. The knot in his chest would loosen a notch. The room mapped itself in islands of amber light. A jukebox gave up a tired song. Laughter marked the pool tables, where boots crowded under chairs like coiled dogs. He counted his breath, for in hold, 6 out, old ritual that kept memory from speaking too loudly. Men in leather vests sprawled across a cluster of high tops. Their voices sawed the air. The bartender polished a glass toward perfection and never reached it. He didn't belong here, but belonging was a small word since the war. Tonight was simple. A paycheck delivered, a promise kept. Sit somewhere warm while the storm finished its sentence. She came in on a fold of rain. The doorway flared, and then a woman stood there built of leather and resolve. Tall, hair slicked back, a black vest over corded arms inked with a flying bird and a blade. Not the kind of rich that hides, the kind that makes a room recalibrate. Her eyes scanned once, and the bar straightened by instinct. A few men raised greetings shaped like challenge. She ignored it, set weather gloves on the counter, and ordered coffee. Someone thumbed the music lower. Without thinking, he watched her in the mirror behind the bottles. That posture, stillness with storm inside, he recognized. Money hung off the clean line of her boots and watch, but something older shielded her. He looked away before his curiosity turned to reflection. His daughter sketched the rain on glass, turning droplets into little rivers. A cue ball cracked. Voices pitched up. One vest bumped another, not by accident. The air tilted toward trouble. She didn't start it. She was merely where someone decided she shouldn't be. Seats taken, a biker said. Not by you, she replied, voice calm as weather after lightning. He rose before deciding to, habit older than sleep. He crossed the floor as if moving through wind and placed himself between them. Not as shield, not as hero, just a man keeping a room from sliding. Let it go, he told the nearest one. Not worth your night. The man scanned him for the easy insult and found none. Who asked you? No one. My kid's trying to finish a drawing. The woman's eyes flicked to the corner. She took in the girl, then met the room again with a colder steadiness. She did not step back behind him. The line between them settled without discussion. Your business? She asked him, quieter. Keeping the floor from turning to ice, he said. A couple of the bikers laughed. The kind that wants escalation. The closest wrapped the veteran's chest with 2 fingers. What's under there, hero? Anything real? The veteran held his gaze. The man hooked rough fingers under the shirt front to tug. Her hand moved faster, steel choosing its place. She gripped the fabric first. Enough, she said, not raising her voice, and the bar heard it. For a beat the veteran and the woman stood within a breath of each other. Her eyes weren't cold. They were tired of fires that warmed no one. He gave the smallest shake of his head. Let go. She didn't. With one clean motion, she tore the shirt down the buttons. The room inhaled. Light fell across his chest, and the old emblem took it. An eagle, a globe, an anchor inked into skin like a vow. The black had softened to ash at the edges, as if time itself had knelt to it. Heat rose under it that wasn't shame or anger, recognition drawing a line backward through years. Someone near the pool table said a quiet word and stopped. The bartender froze mid-polish. The jukebox clicked and stayed silent. In the corner, his daughter's breath caught. She'd seen the tattoo before, but never the way a room changed shape around it. The woman studied the mark as if reading a crest on a standard, the fight that had recruited her ease into respect. "You served," she said, nearly to herself. "I did." "Marine Corps," one of the men muttered, voice altered. "My brother," he didn't finish. Another man found a memory at the bottom of his glass and chose it over trouble. A woman by the door wiped a quick hand across her eyes. Certain signs can still ring a bell in the ribs. The veteran reached up, slow as a truce, and gathered the torn cloth. He didn't yank free. He asked. She opened her hand and let the fabric slide. "I'm not here for anything," he told the room. "Just riding out rain while my kid likes the lights on puddles." A few smiles broke, small and dangerous to no one. The bartender asked if the girl wanted hot chocolate. She did. The veteran shook his head, not refusal, just closing the moment. The woman stepped back and tipped him a narrow nod. He returned it. No apology, no victory. Only a recognition that a room had been spared from a story it didn't need. He turned. His daughter slid off her stool. Sketchbook hugged close. Up close. Rain glittered on her hair like salt. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, then glanced toward the woman and back. "Can we go?" "I want to finish at home." "Yeah," he said. "We're done here." He left cash on the table and touched 2 fingers to the bar in thanks. He didn't button the shirt. Let the night see what it had already seen. They walked toward the door, and the crowd parted without orders. Boots scraped. Chairs edged back. Deference made a path. He felt the woman's gaze on his back. Not weight, not warning. A warmth like standing near a hearth you didn't expect. He didn't turn. Outside, the rain thinned to silver thread. Neon wrote its name across the pavement again and again until it mattered. He held the door for his daughter and stepped into the wet quiet. Inside, the bar stayed paused for a breath longer, reluctant to fold the moment back into ordinary talk. Then voices returned, softer, the way people sound after naming something hard and holy. At the truck, he buckled his daughter in. The cab smelled of pencil shavings. She opened her sketchbook to a fresh page while he slid behind the wheel. "Draw it how you felt it," he said. She drew a small emblem at the top, the curve of eagle, globe, anchor, then a doorway with rain beyond, and a figure just inside holding a pair of gloves. She shaded the neon into the wet. The wipers swept. The road unspooled. In the mirror, the bars read, script receded like a distant campfire. He breathed his counter breath and felt the night change shape around them, not by force, but by the quiet certainty that some storms don't break things. They introduce the air. Morning came with a gentler kind of rain, the kind that clung to window glass in beaded trails before surrendering to gravity. Inside the small house, the smell of coffee and frying eggs thickened the air. He moved through the kitchen with the steadiness of a man who had learned to make rituals out of necessity. Bread toasted, knife spread butter, lunchbox opened. His hands were rough but precise. The way he wrapped a sandwich looked almost like he was packing gear. At the table, his daughter sat with hair tangled from sleep, yawning around her pencil. She was already sketching before the first bite of breakfast. He placed a plate before her and leaned down to smooth the crown of her head with a palm. She didn't look up, but grinned at the touch. "Shoelaces later," he said softly. "Can't have you tripping at school again." She mumbled. That was one time, then bent closer to her drawing. He turned away, but his eyes caught what she'd made. His chest, shaded carefully, the Marine Corps tattoo inked in thick black, with a small figure of herself standing beneath it. His breath snagged. He had been drawn by a 10-year-old hand into a symbol that already carried the weight of dead men. The pan hissed louder. Memory dragged him back, unbidden. He saw a desert horizon blurred by heat, a circle of men crouched around a radio, the silence when one voice didn't answer. He felt the sand grit into the lines of his palm as he touched the body of a friend who should have made it home. That night, he had sat by a field hospital and let the ink bite his skin, a mark to say he remembered, a mark that had outlived too many. He blinked, returned, set plates in the sink. His daughter looked up, catching the shadow in his expression. She didn't speak, but she slid the sketch across to him. A gift, a bandage. Before he could answer, the low rumble of a motorcycle came to a stop outside. It was not a sound they usually heard on this street, where minivans and pickup trucks belonged. He stiffened, wiped his hands on a towel, and went to the window. She was there, the woman from the bar, helmet under her arm, black vest damp from the ride, eyes sharper than the morning should allow. She leaned the bike on its stand with a practiced flick. Not fury in her stance, but something quieter. Decision. He opened the door before she knocked. "You're early for whatever this is." Her smile wasn't quite one. "Didn't think you'd offer an invitation otherwise." Behind him, his daughter whispered, "It's her." The veteran stepped aside. The woman crossed the threshold as though the house might object. She removed her gloves, set them neatly on the counter, eyes roaming across the modest room. The faded curtains, the stack of utility bills, the small vase with a single wildflower his daughter had picked. Her gaze caught on the drawing still on the table. "That's you," she said, pointing to the tattoo sketch bold. His daughter nodded, shy but steady. "It's my dad. And me." The woman lowered herself into a chair. Something in her expression softened, as if the drawing pulled a thread she didn't know was loose. He poured coffee without asking, set it before her. She sipped, winced at the strength. He leaned on the counter. Silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable but weighted. "You didn't come here to talk about art," he said finally. "No." She turned the cup in her hands. "But that night, when you stood there and everyone went quiet, I wanted to know what made the air change." Tattoo didn't change the air. It just reminded them of something they forgot they respected. Her eyes stayed on him. "You don't believe that. That wasn't just ink." He didn't answer. His daughter filled the space with her pencil scratching. The woman set her cup down, fingers tapping against porcelain. "You should know I've got my own marks. Not on skin. In people I trusted. I built something, thought money and strength would protect me. Instead, it burned bridges I didn't want burned. Left me rich but with no one to come home to." His daughter looked up then, eyes narrowing, as if weighing truth the way only a child could. She slid another page across the table, a sketch of a house, smoke curling gently from the chimney. 3 figures inside. She didn't say anything, just pushed it with small fingers. The woman touched the edge of the paper, surprised. "That's kind." "Her way," he explained. "She draws what she wishes was true." The woman's jaw tightened. She looked away, blinking faster than she wanted. "She's better at it than I am." The room held them all in stillness, until a creak from the fridge made them laugh at the same time, startled, almost embarrassed. The sound was small, but it cracked the tension. His daughter giggled outright, which forced both adults to accept the moment as it was. When the laughter died, the woman stood, pulling on her gloves again. "I'll let you get on with your morning. Just thought you should know I wasn't here to fight. Not anymore." He followed her to the door. Rain had stopped, the pavement shining like new metal. She glanced back once. "You carry ghosts," she said. "But you also carry her. Maybe don't forget the second part." He nodded. "And you? What do you carry?" Her eyes hardened, but her voice cracked around the edges. "Too much money. Too few people who mean it." She mounted the bike, engine roaring back to life. His daughter pressed her face to the window, watching until the sound dwindled into distance. He lingered at the doorway, shirt collar still frayed from last night. Inside, the sketches lay on the table. Tattoo, child beneath it, house with smoke rising. Symbols waiting for someone to believe them. He closed the door gently, breath heavy but steadier than it had been in weeks. Outside, the world smelled of wet earth, like something had been washed clean but not yet named. And though he told himself it was unlikely, he knew this wouldn't be the last time their worlds crossed. The night hummed with crickets and the faint echo of tires on distant asphalt. His garage door yawned open, spilling a wedge of yellow light onto the gravel. Tools lined the walls in neat rows, not because he was obsessive, but because order had once meant survival. The motorcycle leaned awkwardly on its stand, chain slack, oil darkening the floor beneath it. She stood beside it, arms crossed, leather vest gleaming under the bulb. "It quit 2 miles back," she admitted, her voice half defiant, as though the machine's failure might be mistaken for her own. "Bring it in," he said simply, kneeling with a wrench already in hand. She crouched opposite, close enough that their knees nearly brushed. He loosened bolts. She steadied the frame. When their hands met over the same tool, neither moved for a breath. Her palm was firm, warm, carrying a faint scent of leather and gasoline. His eyes flicked to hers, gray steel softened by something unspoken, before they both looked down again. From the doorway, his daughter watched, barefoot in her pajamas, sketchbook pressed against her chest. She studied them with the quiet curiosity of a child who sensed change before it was named. "Pass me that rag," he murmured. The girl padded forward, handed it, then lingered by the woman's side. "Can I draw your bike?" she asked shyly. The woman's mouth twitched. "If you make it look better than it rides." The girl giggled, settling cross-legged on the step, pencil scratching in quick strokes. The garage filled with small sounds, the click of tools, the rhythm of breathing, the whisper of graphite on paper. When the repair was done, he wiped his hands and nodded. "Chain'll hold. Needs a new link soon, but she'll run." She reached into her vest pocket, pulling out a roll of bills. He shook his head. "Not for neighbors." Her gaze sharpened. "You don't know me." "I know enough," he said. The girl rose and held out her sketch. A motorcycle drawn with careful lines, its imperfections smoothed, its wheels carrying wings instead of spokes. "For you," she whispered. The woman took it slowly, as if it were glass. Her throat worked around words she didn't let out. She folded the drawing with reverence and slid it inside her jacket, hand pressing against it as though it belonged to her ribcage. The silence deepened, thick but gentle. Finally, he broke it. "The ink on my chest, it isn't for me. It's for the men who didn't walk back. Every time I shave, every time I see it, I remember them. My daughter asks why I keep it. I tell her it's my promise not to forget." Her eyes searched his face. She leaned against the workbench, voice low. "I made a different kind of promise. I said I'd never be powerless again. I built empires out of speed and steel, out of boardrooms that smell nothing like this garage. But each mile I rode, each dollar I stacked, it cost me trust, blood, family. When the engines cut, I go back to silence. There's no house with smoke and the chimney waiting." He nodded slowly, understanding more than she expected. He reached for a small box on the shelf and opened it. Inside lay a folded letter, edges frayed. He didn't hand it to her, just let her see. From a brother who didn't make it home. His last words. "I keep it close, right by the tattoo. Some nights it feels heavier than my own skin." Her hand rose, hesitated, then rested on the lid of the box for a fleeting second. "And you carry that every day?" "Every breath." The garage bulb buzzed, faltered, steadied. She exhaled. Maybe we're both running from the same kind of silence. Later that week, the bar drew them again. This time they entered together, side by side, boots against the same scuffed floorboards. The jukebox stuttered into life, but conversation faltered as eyes followed. The same men who had once tested him now glanced away. He pulled out a chair for her. She accepted. Glasses clinked, but not a word of mockery came. Respect had a different weight than fear. It bent shoulders, softened glares. They shared a drink, the table between them smaller than memory. When he lifted his glass, she mirrored him, their eyes meeting above the amber liquid. No laughter this time, no jeers, just a quiet acknowledgement of two people who had walked through fire and chosen to sit down anyway. Back at the house, the night was cooler. His daughter had fallen asleep on the couch, sketchbook open across her chest. He lifted her gently, carried her to bed. The woman followed, stopping at the doorway, watching. He smoothed the girl's hair, tugged the blanket snug under her chin. The ritual was tender, ordinary, but to the woman it was a relic from another life she'd lost. Her throat tightened, her hands twitching as if to reach out. Instead, she slipped off her leather jacket and laid it across the girl's blanket. A weight, a warmth. The jacket carried the smell of road dust and storm air, but beneath it, something protective, like armor offered freely. He looked up at her. She didn't explain. She only whispered she should know she's guarded. They stood there in a hush, the girl breathing evenly, jacket draped like a shield. Between them hung the letter, the tattoo, the sketch, anchors of memory, grief, and hope. Neither spoke again that night, but when she left, the echo of her boots on the porch didn't sound like departure. It sounded like someone finding her way back. The night pressed down heavy, a lid over the town, the rain having given way to a chill that made neon look like frost. Word spread faster than bad weather. Outsiders had rolled in. 3 bikes with unfamiliar patches, men whose eyes didn't blink enough. They were asking for her, not politely. The bar felt the tension before it manifested. Voices clipped shorter, laughter evaporated. He arrived with his daughter a step behind. Not because he wanted to bring a child into trouble, but because life refused to schedule danger around school nights. He guided her to the same corner stool and set a cocoa on the table. "Stay with the bartender if I move," he said. She nodded. That solemn little soldier she became when the air thinned. The door swung and the outsiders filed through, leather wet, boots heavy with the confidence of men who mistake noise for credibility. She was already there, spine straight, jacket on, hands empty but not idle. Her own riders hovered at a distance, uncertain. Authority is easiest when uncontested. "You call yourself queen of this stretch," the tallest outsider said, nose tilted as if the room offended him. "We're here to revise the map." "Maps don't change because someone says compass," she replied, voice low but carrying. He stood near a column between them, not blocking, not hiding. He took off his coat and rolled his sleeves with care, not in threat, in clarity. The outsider looked him over and dismissed him with a snort that left a film of contempt on the air. "You brought a fan club," the outsider sneered. His eyes drifted past, landed on the girl, and held a beat too long. "And family." Something cold walked down the veteran's back. Not fear, not anger, decision. He stepped forward with the ease of a man who knew exactly how much space he took up. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't touch anyone. He just stood where all attention wanted to gather. "Whatever you thought you were going to do tonight," he said, "you're not doing it here." The outsider laughed a practice laugh of a bully testing stage boards. "You the bouncer? I don't see a stamp on your hand. Grandpa." He unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of his shirt and let the room see what it already knew. The Eagle globe, an anchor caught the bar's amber like a memory relit. The oldest biker in the corner straightened. The bartender stopped moving altogether. The veteran's voice remained gentle. "I'm the reminder," he said. "That respect is still a thing." The outsider's smirk faltered, not because of the ink, but because the ink was attached to a posture that said there were lines he would not allow crossed. Silence spread, the kind that makes a man hear himself clearly for the first time. The veteran didn't stare the outsider down. He gave him place to land that didn't require humiliation. "Take your bikes," the veteran said. "Ride out. No one follows. No one gloats. You keep your dignity. She keeps her people safe. And my kid finishes her cocoa without learning a new language for fear." One of the outsiders shifted, weight undecided. The tallest looked at the woman. She hadn't moved, but everything about her was listening. Rooms can choose a center the way water chooses a channel. Tonight, it chose the space between his shoulders and his chest. The outsider tried to muster one more line of theater. None arrived. He swore under his breath, jerked his chin at his men, and turned. Boots scraped. Jackets brushed. The door opened its mouth and swallowed them back into the cold. When it shut again, the bar didn't cheer. It exhaled. Someone said, "Hell," quietly like a prayer. The jukebox found itself and offered a gentle chord before thinking better of it. She crossed him with a face that had forgotten how to arrange itself around gratitude. "If they come back," she began. "They might," he said, "but not tonight." Her gaze flicked to the corner. The girl raised both eyebrows in a question he knew well. "Safe?" He tipped his head. She returned to her cocoa with a seriousness that made the bartender grin into a towel. The bar resumed its slow orbit. They stood in the eddy of the pause. She touched his shirt, light as dust, where the buttons lay open. "I tore this once," she said, the words pulled from a place that didn't like to be touched. "Not to pick a fight. I need you to know that." "You wanted to win a room," he said. "No!" Her eyes lifted, bright with honesty that flinched. "I saw something I didn't understand. Something I was missing. I thought, if I tore the cloth, maybe I could name the thing underneath. But it wasn't a tattoo. It was how you stood there, like a person who didn't need witnesses to be true." He couldn't answer that without knocking over something delicate. He closed the buttons, not to hide, but to say, "We can put this away now." She nodded as if they'd spoken aloud. They left together under a sky scraped clean of rain. The air had the taste of tin and pine. At the house, he coaxed the fire alive in the wood stove. She stood near, palms extended, not for heat. She seemed to be learning what quiet felt like when it came from flame instead of engines. His daughter, sleepy and stubborn about bedtime, drifted into the room, hair a tangle, sketchbook under her arm. "Can I stay up?" "Just a few?" she pleaded. 3 pages, he bargained. Then, tuck. The girl climbed onto the rug and began to draw the wood stove, the way light licked the iron. The woman lowered onto the floor beside her, cross-legged, leather creaking softly. She watched the pencil move, the ease with which the child created a world where lines held and warmth stayed where you put it. "Draw me something from my pocket," the woman said, voice almost playful. "I travel light." The child's eyes gleamed. She sketched quickly. 3 figures beneath a roofline, a small square of light in a window, a stitched heart above the door. She tore the page carefully and blew on the edge like one does with treasure. The woman folded it once, twice, pressed it to her sternum, and slid it into the inside pocket of her jacket. He took in the scene with a quiet that housed both ache and relief. The letter on the mantel called his attention like a bell only he could hear. He lifted it, unfolded it, read the first line without needing to. "Brother, if you're reading this," then the road turned, then folded again, the ritual both wound and balm. He placed it back on the mantel and felt his friend's hand on his shoulder the way memory sometimes pretends to be touch. When the girl yawned wide enough to squeak, he scooped her, and she looped her arms around his neck with blind trust. He carried her to bed. She murmured into his collar, "Stay till I sleep?" "Always," he said. She was already gone when he laid her down. He smoothed her hair with 2 fingers, a cadence he'd memorized back when grief was a storm and this gesture the only dry place. He turned to find the woman standing in the doorway, watching like someone remembering an old him. He lifted the corner of the blanket. The woman hesitated, then stepped forward, and the smallest smile visited her mouth as she tucked in the edge with a care that betrayed her. She set her leather glove on the quilt like a blessing and, without dramatics, bent and brushed a loose strand of hair from the girl's brow. They returned to the fire. The house made its nighttime sounds. With settling, the stove ticking, the breath of home that had learned to live with less and be dignified about it. She sat on the couch, hands open on her knees, a posture that could have been surrender if it hadn't been so earned. I don't know how to stop writing, she confessed, eyes on the fire. When it's fast, it's quiet. When it's quiet, it's loud. I don't have a place where the speed can set down. You're here now, he said, simply. She turned her wrist, palm up, an invitation as plain as any confession. He placed his hand in hers, warm and steady. The contact, that rare kind of right that doesn't require explanation. She exhaled as if she'd been holding it since childhood. The fire made a low sound like approval. Her head found his shoulder, slowly, as if testing load-bearing beams. He didn't move. He let his weight be something she didn't have to resist. Time stretched, not empty, not heavy, full in a way a hell breath is full just before the dive. From the hallway, a small shape lingered. The girl peered around the corner, hair mussed, socks mispaired, eyes brighter than her years. She took in the sight, the hand in hand, the jacket on the mantel, the soft light holding everyone together, and she smiled the kind of smile that refuses to make noise in case it scares away gentleness. Maybe we're not alone anymore, she whispered, as if saying it too loud would wake the old life. He lifted his free hand and beckoned. She shook her head, content to keep the spell unbroken, and tiptoed back to bed. The fire shifted and made room for the future. He stood at last, reluctant to interrupt the gravity, and crossed to the mantel. He took the sketch his daughter had given earlier, a small version of a roof line with 3 figures, and placed it beside the folded letter. He set the woman's leather glove between them. Palm open to the room. Symbols, yes, but not just. Past, present, a door just starting to swing. He stepped back to the couch. She lifted her gaze, questioning without asking. He answered by sitting, by offering his hand again, by letting the room say the rest. If this story touched you, subscribe or share where you're watching from.